So Henry Huntington, around this time, was asked if he would have a biography written about him. He was a modest man, and he kind of demurred and said, the library will tell the story. And that motivated us tremendously, because what it said is that our founder wasn't interested in an institutional history. If he wasn't interested in a history of himself, why would he be interested in a straightforward institutional history? Instead, what is it that people could learn about the outside world, about the world beyond the Huntington, by visiting the Huntington?
I knew that the expectation was we would do something about the founders, and I've worked here a really long time, and that wasn't really that interesting to me, simply because I think we know quite a bit about the founders. There's been books written about the founders. So the conceit was, well, what if we were to kind of turn it on its head and really think about talking about the context in which this institution came to be?
So what we tried to do in this show is to dig really deep, to focus solely on the year 1919, to have objects in the show that were only made in 1919, altered in 1919, exhibited in 1919, purchased in 1919. I could add a couple more verbs, but that was the constraint.
Voting rights, labor, inflation, all these things 100 years ago were very much at the forefront of the national conversation. And so I hadn't anticipated there would be that much synergy, honestly.
We've got great things on suffrage and the suffrage movement. A woman named Clara Burdett's papers, who was very active in suffrage, very active in the Red Cross. One of the really great finds of the show was a collection of German posters. They're called propaganda posters, but they're really much bigger than that. And we have one poster in the show that says, people standing here will be indiscriminately shot. That's what the poster says. And in doing research, what we learned is that this would have been a poster put on a public building in Berlin during the German Revolution of 1919. So all of these things added up give us both a very broad perspective. We're thinking about Berlin in 1919, and then very local. Clara Burdett lived in Pasadena. From the very near to the very far, we encompass that in the show.
He was an accumulator of collections, and he did that strictly from a business model too. He would purchase up, he did that with his transportation network. He didn't come in and start transportation from the ground up. He bought all these companies that were already in existence and consolidated them. And he did the same thing with this library. He bought existing libraries and consolidated those. He bought plant collections and consolidated them. So he was a consolidator.
And what we have done is screen out noise and the cacophony of all those different voices and dialed it down so that people can hear certain kinds of themes. One of those themes is return, another theme is move, another theme is map, fight, and build. Those were the 5 thematics that we organized it around.
I think he just never wanted the limelight on him. Yeah. I think he really didn't. And I think it's partly sort of this kind of hopeful optimism of like, I'm building this thing and I'm putting it out in the world and let's see what comes of it. And I love that idea of it. It's like, let's just put it out, and I can't control it. And it worked, So I think that's really, for me, as someone who's worked here for so long, that's the exciting part of working here, which is that you cannot anticipate how people will respond or interpret or imagine collections. And that's not our job. Our job is to put it out and let people make of it what they will.